The space station was loud and busy. Thousands of beings from hundreds of different worlds walked through its metal corridors. They were all here for the Unity Summit, a big meeting where species from across the galaxy came together to talk about peace and trade. Kang Do-hyun was not part of this important meeting. He was just an engineer, a human engineer who fixed broken pipes and cleaned water systems. He had been working for 12 hours straight, and his body was screaming for rest. His uniform was dirty. His hands were rough from work. His eyes were heavy with sleep. All he wanted was to reach his small room and fall into his bed. The corridor ahead was packed with aliens of every shape and size. Some were tall and thin like walking trees. Others were short and round like living stones. There were beings with 4 arms, beings with no arms, beings covered in fur, and beings covered in scales. Do-hyun pushed through the crowd carefully. He said, "Excuse me," many times. But most aliens did not understand human words. They simply moved aside when they saw his tired face. He was almost at the end of the corridor when it happened. His foot came down on something soft and warm. A sharp cry of surprise filled the air. It was a feminine voice, high and clear like a bell. Do-hyun stumbled backward, his heart jumping in his chest. He looked down and saw what he had stepped on. A tail. A long, silver-blue tail covered in fine fur that seemed to glow under the station lights. His eyes followed the tail upward. It belonged to a woman, but she was not human. She was Lunari. Do-hyun had seen Lunari before, but always from a distance. They were a proud species, known for their beauty and their cold manners. They looked almost human, but with subtle differences. Their skin had a silver-blue tint. Their ears were slightly pointed, and they all had long, elegant tails. This Lunari woman was tall and graceful. Her hair was white like fresh snow, falling past her shoulders. Her eyes were violet, the color of a sunset on a distant world. She wore a diplomat's dress, expensive and beautiful, which meant she was someone important, and Do-hyun had just stepped on her tail. "I am so sorry," he said quickly. He bowed his head low, the way he had seen people do in old movies when they apologized to royalty. "I did not see you. Are you hurt? Please. I am very sorry." The Lunari woman stared at him. Her violet eyes were wide, and her cheeks had turned a soft shade of purple. Her tail curled against her leg, and she held it gently as if it was precious. Do-hyun expected anger. He expected her to shout at him or call the station guards. He had heard that Lunari were proud and did not forgive insults easily, but she did not look angry. She looked surprised, and something else, something he could not understand. The crowd around them had stopped moving. Other aliens were watching now, their eyes curious. A few Lunari in the crowd gasped and covered their mouths. The woman took a step closer to Do-hyun. Her voice was soft when she spoke. "Do you want to wed me, human?" Do-hyun blinked. His tired brain tried to process her words. Wednesday. That meant marry. She was asking if he wanted to marry her. "I am sorry," he said slowly. "What did you say?" "You touched my tail," she said. Her voice was calm, but her cheeks were still purple. "And then you bowed with respect. By Lunari tradition, this is a proposal of marriage." Do-hyun felt the world spin around him. This had to be a joke. This had to be some kind of misunderstanding. "I stepped on your tail by accident," he explained. "The corridor was crowded. I could not see where I was walking. I bowed because I wanted to apologize. I did not know about your traditions." The woman tilted her head. Her violet eyes studied him carefully, as if she was reading a difficult book. "You did not know," she repeated. "No, I am just an engineer. I fix water pipes. I do not know anything about Lunari customs." A murmur went through the watching crowd. Some aliens laughed quietly. Others looked confused. The Lunari woman was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "I see. This is unexpected." She turned and looked at the other Lunari in the crowd. They were whispering to each other, their tails moving nervously. Do-hyun realized that this situation was serious for her. She had just publicly accepted what she thought was a proposal, and now she was learning it was an accident. "I am sorry for the confusion," Do-hyun said again. He felt bad for her. She had done nothing wrong. And now she was in an awkward situation because of his clumsiness. "What is your name, human?" she asked. "Kang Do-hun. I am Vela of House Moonfire." She stood straight, her dignity returning. "We must speak privately, Kang Do-hyun. This matter requires discussion." Before Do-hun could respond, she turned and walked away. The crowd parted for her like water around a stone. She moved with grace, her damaged tail held high despite the pain she must have felt. Do-hyun stood alone in the corridor, his mind racing. What had just happened? He had accidentally proposed to an alien diplomat by stepping on her tail. This was insane. This was the kind of thing that only happened in bad stories. An alien with green skin patted his shoulder as it walked past. "Good luck, human," it said in broken English. "Lunari weddings are very long." Do-hyun groaned and covered his face with his hands. He needed to find Vela and explain things properly. He needed to fix this mess before it got worse. He was an engineer. After all, fixing problems was his job. But as he walked toward his room to clean up, he could not shake the image of Vela's violet eyes from his mind. She had looked at him with such surprise, such openness. For just a moment, before she put her dignity back on like armor, she had looked almost hopeful. He shook his head. He was tired. He was imagining things. This was just a cultural misunderstanding. He would find Vela, explain the truth, and everything would go back to normal. He had no idea how wrong he was. The next morning, Do-hyun woke to the sound of someone banging on his door. He stumbled out of bed, his hair messy and his eyes half closed. When he opened the door, his best friend Yoon Hana pushed past him into his small room. "What did you do?" she demanded. Hana was a medic on the station. She was short and fierce, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She and Do-hyun had known each other since training school on Earth. She was like a sister to him. "Good morning to you too," Do-hyun mumbled. "Do not give me that." Hana held up her communication tablet. The screen showed a news article with a picture of Do-hyun's face. The headline read, "Human engineer proposes to lunary diplomat in public ceremony." Do-hyun's blood went cold. "That is not what happened," he said. "Then explain." "Now." So he did. He told her everything, from the crowded corridor to the tale to Vela's strange question. Hannah listened with her arms crossed, her expression growing more serious with each word. When he finished, she sat down heavily on his bed. "You are in trouble," she said. "I know, but I will just explain that it was an accident. Surely the Lunari will understand." Hana laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You do not understand, Do-hyun. I have worked with Lunari patients before. Their tails are sacred to them. To touch a Lunari's tail is the most intimate thing you can do. It is like touching their soul." Do-hyun felt sick. "I did not know." "Of course you did not. But that does not change what happened." She looked at her tablet again. "According to their tradition, you have made a formal marriage proposal, and because you bowed afterward, Vela accepted it. Then I will tell everyone it was a mistake, and shame her in front of the entire galaxy." "Do-hyun, Vela is not just any Lunari. She is from House Moonfire. Her grandmother is a matriarch, one of the most powerful leaders in their society." Hana met his eyes. "If you publicly reject Vela, you will destroy her reputation. Her family will be dishonored. She might even be cast out from her house." Do-hyun sat down on the floor, his back against the wall. "What am I supposed to do?" he asked quietly. "I cannot marry a stranger, but I cannot ruin her life either." Hana was silent for a moment. Then she sighed. "I do not know, Do-hyun, but you need to figure it out fast. According to this article, Vela's grandmother is coming to the station in 3 days to officiate the wedding." Do-hyun closed his eyes. 3 days. He had 3 days to solve an impossible problem. He thought about Vela, standing alone in that crowded corridor with her injured tail and her purple cheeks. She had not asked for this either. She was just as trapped as he was. Maybe, he thought, they could find a way out together. He stood up and reached for his clean uniform. "Where are you going?" Hannah asked. "To find Vela. We need to talk." Finding Vela was not easy. The station was enormous, with hundreds of levels and thousands of rooms. Do-hyun asked everyone he met, but most aliens either did not understand him or did not want to help. Finally, A kind alien with blue feathers pointed him toward the diplomatic wing. This was the fancy part of the station where important visitors stayed. The walls were clean and white. The floors were polished until they shined like mirrors. Guards stood at every corner, watching with careful eyes. Do-hyun felt very small and dirty in his engineer uniform. He approached the front desk, where a tall alien with 4 eyes sat behind a computer. "I am looking for Vela of House Moonfire," Do-hyun said. The alien looked at him with all 4 eyes. "The Lady Vela does not accept visitors without appointment. Please, I need to speak with her. It is about the proposal." The alien's expression changed. It leaned forward with sudden interest. "You are the human," it said. "The one from the news." Do-hyun sighed. "Yes. Wait here." The alien pressed some buttons on its computer. A few minutes later, a door opened, and a Lunari guard appeared. He was tall and strong, with cold silver eyes. "Follow me," the guard said. Do-hyun followed him through long corridors and up several floors. They passed beautiful paintings and sculptures from 100 worlds. Everything here spoke of wealth and power. Finally, they reached a large door decorated with silver moons. "The Lady Vela is inside," the guard said. "Do not waste her time, human." Do-hyun nodded and stepped through the door. The room was beautiful. Large windows showed the stars outside. Soft furniture filled the space, and strange plants grew in silver pots. It smelled like flowers from some distant world. Vela stood by the window, her back to him. She wore a simple blue dress today, and her white hair was tied up. Her tail hung low, wrapped in medical bandages where he had stepped on it. Guilt twisted in Do-hyun's stomach. "You came," Vela said without turning around. "I needed to talk to you. About what happened." "Yes." She finally turned to face him. Her violet eyes were calm, but Do-hyun could see tension in her shoulders. "I have been thinking about it all night. I want you to know that I never meant to hurt you or your reputation," Do-hyun said quickly. "I did not know about your traditions. In human culture, stepping on someone is just an accident. It does not mean anything. I understand." Vela moved to a chair and sat down gracefully. She gestured for Do-hyun to sit as well. "Tell me about human culture. How do your people propose marriage?" Do-hyun sat on the edge of a fancy sofa. It was softer than anything he had ever felt. "Well, usually a man gets down on one knee. He holds a ring, a small piece of jewelry, and asks the woman to marry him. If she says yes, they are engaged." Vela tilted her head. "That is very simple." "I suppose it is." Do-hyun rubbed the back of his neck. "How do Lunari propose?" Vela was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "The tail is the center of our being. It is connected to our emotions, our health, our very soul. To touch another, Lunari's tail is the most personal thing possible. Parents touch their children's tails. Close friends may touch tails briefly, but for a stranger to touch your tail, it is either a grave insult or a declaration of deep feeling. And because I bowed afterward, you showed that your touch was not meant as an insult. In our tradition, this means you were declaring your intention to bond with me, to marry me." Vela looked at her hands. "And because I did not strike you or walk away, I accepted." Do-hyun leaned forward. "But you know now that it was an accident. You know I did not mean it that way." "Yes. But the problem is that everyone else saw what happened. The news has spread across the station. By now, my grandmother has surely heard." Vela's voice became strained. "If I publicly say that I made a mistake, that I accepted a proposal that was not real, my family will be shamed. House Moonfire will become a joke. And if I say it was my mistake, then you insult me even more. You would be saying that a Lunari woman was so desperate that she accepted a proposal from a man who did not want her." Vela shook her head. "Either way, my honor is destroyed." Do-hyun felt frustration building inside him. This was crazy. A simple accident had turned into an impossible situation because of ancient traditions that made no sense to him. But then he looked at Vela. She was sitting straight and proud, but her hands were shaking slightly. Her tail, even wrapped in bandages, was curled tight against her body. She was afraid. This was not her fault. She was just following the rules she had been taught since birth. And now she was trapped. just like him. There must be a solution, Do-hyun said firmly. There is always a solution. I am an engineer. I solve problems every day. Vela looked at him with surprise. You are not angry? Why would I be angry? You did nothing wrong. I assumed you were proposing. I accepted without checking. A wiser woman would have asked questions first. Do-hyun shrugged. You were following your culture. How could you have known that a clumsy human would step on your tail by accident? A small smile appeared on Vela's face. It was the first time he had seen her smile, and it made her look younger, softer. You are strange, Kang Do-hyun. Most beings would be shouting and blaming by now. Shouting does not fix problems. Trust me. I've tried. Vela studied him for a long moment. Her violet eyes seemed to look right through him, seeing something he could not understand. There may be one way out, she said finally. A path that would save both our honors. Tell me, in Lunari tradition, there is something called a trial courtship. When a proposal happens under unusual circumstances, the couple may choose to spend 30 days together. During this time, they learn about each other. At the end of 30 days, if they are found to be incompatible, the engagement can be dissolved with no shame to either side. Do-hyun felt hope rise in his chest. That sounds perfect. There are conditions. Vela held up a finger. First, we must spend real time together. Meals, conversations, activities. We cannot simply avoid each other for 30 days. That seems fair. Second, my grandmother will watch us closely. She will test you to see if you are worthy of a lunary bride. If you fail her tests, she can end the courtship early and declare me the innocent party. And if I pass? Vela's cheeks turned slightly purple. Then we will have a problem. But let us worry about that later. Do-hyun thought about it. 30 days. He would have to pretend to court an alien woman for 30 days. He would have to face her grandmother's tests. He would have to act like a proper suitor. But at the end, they would both be free, with their honor intact. I will do it, he said. Vela blinked. You agree? Just like that? You said it yourself. This is the best solution. Do-hyun stood up and offered his hand, the way humans did when making agreements. We are partners in this mess. Let us work together to get out of it. Vela stared at his hand. Lunari did not shake hands. But after a moment, she reached out and took it. Her skin was cool and smooth, like touching silk. Partners, she agreed. They shook once, then let go. Vela's tail uncurled slightly, a sign that some of her tension had eased. My grandmother arrives in 3 days, she said. Her name is Elder Soren, and she is difficult. She will not make this easy for you. I have survived worse things than difficult grandmothers. You have not met my grandmother. Vela stood up and walked him to the door. Thank you, Do-hyun, for coming here, for listening. Most beings would have simply denied everything and let me suffer alone. Do-hyun paused at the door. That is not who I am. I am beginning to see that. As Do-hyun walked back through the fancy corridors, he felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that they had found a solution. Worry about the grandmother. And something else. Something he could not quite name. When he reached his room, Hannah was waiting outside. Well, she demanded, what happened? We have a plan, Do-hyun said, but I need your help. What kind of help? I need to learn everything about Lunari culture in 3 days. Their customs, their food, their history, everything. Hannah raised an eyebrow. Why? Because I am about to be tested by a Lunari matriarch, and I refuse to fail. Hannah stared at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. You know, Do-hyun, sometimes I forget how stubborn you are. Is that a yes? It is a yes. Now come on, we have a lot of studying to do. For the next 3 days, Do-hyun barely slept. He read every article about Lunari culture. He watched videos of their ceremonies. He learned their greetings, their table manners, their sacred gestures. Hannah tested him over and over until he could recite facts in his sleep. And every evening, he met with Vela for dinner. They talked about simple things at first. Their favorite foods, their childhoods, their dreams. Slowly, carefully, they began to know each other. On the 3rd day, a large ship arrived at the station. It was silver and elegant, decorated with moons and stars. The ship of House Moonfire, Elder Soren, had arrived, and Do-hyun's real test was about to begin. Elder Soren was a small woman. She stood barely up to Do-hyun's chest, with white hair pulled back in a tight bun and silver eyes that had seen centuries of life. Her tail was long and elegant, moving slowly behind her like a snake waiting to strike. But her size meant nothing. When she walked into the room, everyone felt her presence. Guards stood straighter. Servants bowed lower. Even Vela, proud and dignified, lowered her eyes in respect. This was not just an old woman. This was power wearing a grandmother's face. "So," Elder Soren said, looking at Do-hyun for the first time, "you are the human." They were in Vela's quarters, which had been arranged for a formal meeting. Do-hyun stood in the center of the room while Elder Soren circled him slowly, studying him from every angle. "Yes, Elder Soren," Do-hyun said. He kept his voice calm and respectful, the way Hana had taught him. "You are small for a human male. I am average height for my people." "Average," she said, the word like it was an insult. "And you work with water pipes?" "I am an engineer. I maintain the life support systems of this station." "A servant's job." Do-hyun felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. "With respect, Elder, without engineers like me, this station would not function. The water would not flow. The air would not be clean. The lights would not shine. We are the invisible workers who keep everyone alive." Elder Soren stopped circling. Her silver eyes narrowed. "You speak boldly." "I speak truthfully." Silence filled the room. Vela watched nervously from the corner, her tail wrapped tight around her leg. She had warned Do-hyun not to argue with her grandmother, but he could not let anyone insult his work. Then, slowly, Elder Soren smiled. It was a small smile, cold and sharp. "Good," she said. "I hate cowards." She moved to a large chair and sat down like a queen taking her throne. Her tail curled around the armrest. "I know about your little agreement with my granddaughter, the trial courtship. You think you can survive 30 days and then walk away free. That is the plan, Elder. Plans often fail, human, especially plans made by young fools who do not understand what they are playing with." She leaned forward. "I have agreed to this trial courtship because it protects my family's honor. But do not think I will make it easy for you." Do-hyun straightened his back. "I did not expect you would. You will face 3 trials. The trial of patience, the trial of courage, and the trial of heart. These are ancient tests that all suitors must pass to be worthy of a Lunari bride. What happens if I fail? Then the courtship ends, and you will be declared unworthy. My granddaughter will be free, and her honor will be intact." Elder Soren's smile widened. "I suggest you fail, human. It will be easier for everyone." Do-hyun thought about this. The elder was giving him an out. If he failed the trials on purpose, everything would be over. Vela would be fine, and he could go back to his normal life. It was the smart choice, the easy choice. But something inside him refused. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was stubbornness, or maybe it was the memory of Vela's face when he had agreed to help her. She had looked at him with such surprise, such gratitude. No one had expected him to care about a stranger's honor. He would not prove them right. He would not be the clumsy human who caused a disaster and then ran away. "I will take your trials," Do-hyun said, "and I will not fail on purpose." Elder Soren's eyes flashed with something. Surprise? Interest? Do-hyun could not tell. "Foolish," she said. "But interesting." She stood up and walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned back one last time. "The first trial begins tomorrow, human. I hope you know what you are doing." Then she was gone, leaving Do-hyun alone with Vela. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Vela let out a long breath. "You should not have challenged her," she said quietly. "I did not challenge her. I just refused to surrender. To my grandmother, that is the same thing." Vela moved closer to him. Her violet eyes were worried. "Why did you do that? You could have agreed to fail. Everything would have been simple." Do-hyun looked at her. In the soft light of the room, she looked less like a diplomat and more like a young woman carrying a heavy weight. "Can I be honest with you?" he asked. "Please." "I do not know why I did that. Maybe I am just stubborn. like my friend Hana always says. But when your grandmother talked about failing, something inside me refused. He paused, trying to find the right words. You trusted me, Vela. You agreed to this plan when you could have blamed everything on me. You treated me with respect when other people would have treated me like dirt. Vela's cheeks turned purple. I did what any reasonable person would do. No. You did what a good person would do. There is a difference. Do-hyun smiled slightly. So I cannot fail on purpose. I cannot repay your trust by giving up without trying. Vela was silent for a long moment. Her tail had relaxed and was now swaying gently behind her. You are very strange, Kang Do-hyun, she said finally. So I have been told. No, I mean it. You are unlike any being I have ever met. Humans have a reputation in the galaxy. Your people are known for being loud and aggressive and selfish. But you are none of those things. Do-hyun laughed softly. Some humans are like that. But we are not all the same. We have billions of people on Earth, each one different from the others. That sounds chaotic. It is. But it is also beautiful. Do-hyun moved to the window and looked out at the stars. When I was a child, I used to look at the night sky and wonder what was out there. I dreamed of meeting alien species, of seeing new worlds, of being part of something bigger than myself. And now you are here. Now I am here. Fixing water pipes on a space station and accidentally proposing to alien diplomats. He grinned. Life is strange. Vela joined him at the window. For a moment, they stood side by side, watching the stars together. My mother used to tell me stories about humans, Vela said quietly. She said that humans were dangerous because they never gave up. Other species, when faced with impossible odds, would surrender or run away. But humans would keep fighting until the very end. Is that why your grandmother is worried about me? Perhaps. Or perhaps she is just protective of her family. Vela glanced at him. My mother died when I was young. My grandmother raised me. She is strict and cold, but she loves me. Everything she does is to protect me. Do-hyun nodded slowly. Then I will prove to her that I am not a threat. I will pass her trials with honor. And at the end of 30 days, we will both be free. And then what? The question caught him off guard. He looked at Vela, trying to read her expression. Her violet eyes were unreadable. Then we go our separate ways, he said. You continue your work as a diplomat. I continue fixing pipes. Life goes back to normal. Normal, Vela repeated. She did not sound happy about it. Before Do-hyun could ask what she meant, the door opened. A servant appeared, bowing low. Lady Vela, the evening meal is ready. Thank you, we will be there shortly. Vela turned to Do-hyun. Will you join me for dinner? It is part of the courtship requirement. We must share meals together. Of course. They walked together through the corridors toward the dining hall. Other beings watched them pass, whispering to each other. The human and the Lunari. The strange couple that everyone was talking about, Do-hyun ignored them. He had learned long ago that people would always talk. The only thing he could control was his own actions. During dinner, he and Vela talked about many things. Their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. She told him about growing up in the great halls of House Moonfire, learning diplomacy and politics from her grandmother. He told her about his small apartment on Earth, about his parents who worked in a factory, about how he had studied engineering because he wanted to see the stars. By the end of the meal, Do-hyun realized something surprising. He was enjoying himself. Vela was intelligent and curious and funny in a dry, subtle way. When she laughed, her tail wagged slightly, like a cat's. When she was interested in something, her ears perked up. She asked thoughtful questions and actually listened to his answers. She was nothing like the cold, proud Lunari he had expected. Thank you for dinner, Do-hyun said as they parted for the night. It was nice. Vela smiled that small smile of hers. It was. We will do it again tomorrow. And every night for the next 30 days. I look forward to it. He meant it. And that surprised him more than anything else. As Do-hyun walked back to his room, he thought about the trials ahead. The trial of patience. The trial of courage. The trial of heart. He did not know what they would involve, but he knew they would be difficult. Elder Soren wanted him to fail. She would make the trials as hard as possible. But Do-hyun had survived worse things. He had grown up poor on a crowded Earth. He had worked his way through engineering school. He had crossed the galaxy to find a new life among the stars. He was not afraid of some old woman's tests. What he was afraid of, though he did not want to admit it, was something else entirely. He was afraid that by the end of 30 days, he might not want to walk away. Do-hyun was eating breakfast in his small room when the door slid open. 2 Lunari guards stepped inside, their faces blank. "You will come with us," one of them said. Do-hyun put down his food and followed them. They did not tell him where they were going or what would happen. They simply walked in silence through corridor after corridor until they reached a part of the station Do-hyun had never seen before. It was an empty room. White walls. White floor. No windows. In the center of the room sat a small table with a strange box on top. Elder Soren stood in the corner, watching with her cold silver eyes. "The trial of patience," she announced. "This is a Lunari puzzle box. It has been used for generations to test the minds of those who wish to join our great houses. Inside the box is a ceremonial crystal. Your task is to open the box and retrieve the crystal." Do-hyun approached the table and looked at the box. It was made of dark metal, covered with strange symbols and moving parts. There was no obvious lock or lid. "How long do I have?" "As long as you need. But most beings give up within 1 hour. The record for solving it is 3 hours. Do-hyun nodded and sat down in front of the box. He placed his hands on the cold metal and began to explore. The first hour passed slowly. Do-hyun turned the box in his hands, studying every surface. He pressed buttons. He twisted knobs. He pulled and pushed and poked at every part he could find. Nothing happened. At the end of the first hour, he had learned that the box was designed to frustrate. Every time he thought he was making progress, the box would reset or reveal another layer of complexity. Elder Soren watched in silence, her tail moving slowly behind her. By the second hour, Do-hyun's back hurt from sitting. His fingers were sore from pressing buttons. His mind was tired from thinking. Most people would have given up by now, but Do-hyun was not most people. He thought about his days as a young engineering student. He had faced problems that seemed impossible then too. Old machines with no manuals, broken systems with no spare parts. He had learned to be patient, to think step by step, to never give up until he found the answer. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then, he started again from the beginning. This time, he did not try to solve the box. Instead, he tried to understand it. He noticed the patterns in the symbols. He felt the way certain parts moved together. He listened to the tiny clicks and sounds inside the box. Slowly, a picture began to form in his mind. The box was not just a puzzle, it was a machine. And like all machines, it had a logic. He just needed to find it. By the third hour, Do-hyun had mapped out most of the box's systems in his head. He knew which buttons connected to which mechanisms. He knew which knobs controlled which locks. By the fourth hour, he had a theory. By the fifth hour, he was almost certain. He took a deep breath and began to move. His fingers danced over the box's surface, pressing buttons in a specific order, turning knobs at precise angles. The box clicked and whirred and shifted. And then, with a soft sound, a hidden panel slid open. Inside was a small blue crystal, glowing with inner light. Do-hyun reached in and took the crystal. He held it up to the light, watching the way it sparkled. "The trial of patience is complete," Elder Soren said. Her voice was flat, but Do-hyun saw surprise in her eyes. "You solved it in 5 hours. That is impressive." "Thank you, Elder." "Do not thank me yet. This was the easiest trial." She turned and walked toward the door. "Enjoy your rest, human. You will need it." That night, Do-hyun had dinner with Vela as usual. When he told her about the puzzle box, her eyes went wide. 5 hours? Grandmother expected you to fail or give up after 1? I do not give up easily. I am beginning to see that. Vela's tail swayed with what might have been amusement. You have impressed her, Do-hyun. That is not easy to do. I do not think she is impressed. I think she is annoyed. With my grandmother, those are often the same thing. They laughed together, and Do-hyun felt some of his tiredness fade away. These dinners had become the best part of his days. He looked forward to them more than he wanted to admit. The next trial came 3 days later. This time, Do-hyun was taken to the lower levels of the station. These were the dangerous areas, where the reactors hummed and radiation warnings glowed on every wall. Only trained technicians were allowed here, and even they did not stay long. Elder Soren was waiting at the entrance to a dark corridor. "The trial of courage," she said. "At the end of this corridor is a chamber. Inside the chamber is a ceremonial stone. You must retrieve it and bring it back." Do-hyun looked down the corridor. Red warning lights flashed. The air felt hot and heavy. What are the dangers? Radiation, unstable gravity, mechanical failures. Elder Soren's expression did not change. "Many things can kill you in there, human. Are you sure you want to proceed?" Do-hyun thought about turning back. This was not like the puzzle box. This was real danger. He could die in that corridor. And for what? A stupid trial and a fake courtship. But then he thought about Vila. He thought about her violet eyes and her gentle smile. He thought about the trust she had placed in him. He could not give up now. "Give me 10 minutes to prepare," he said. Elder Soren raised an eyebrow but nodded. Do-hyun ran to the engineering section and grabbed supplies. A radiation suit, a scanner, a toolkit, some repair patches. He was not going in there unprepared. When he returned, Elder Soren looked at his equipment with something like approval. "You think before you act," she said. "That is rare. I am an engineer. Thinking is my job." He put on the radiation suit and stepped into the corridor. The next 20 minutes were the longest of his life. The corridor was a nightmare. Radiation levels spiked randomly, forcing him to hide behind walls. Gravity shifted without warning, sending him floating or crashing to the floor. Pipes burst and sprayed hot steam. Lights flickered and died. But Do-hyun kept moving forward. He used his scanner to find safe paths. He used his toolkit to fix broken machines. He used his patches to seal leaks. Every problem, he solved. Every obstacle, he overcame. Finally, he reached the chamber at the end. It was small and hot, with a single pedestal in the center. On the pedestal sat a black stone with silver veins running through it. The ceremonial stone. Do-hyun grabbed it and began the long journey back. When he emerged from the corridor, his radiation suit was torn and smoking. His face was pale with exhaustion, but he was alive, and the stone was in his hand. Elder Soren stared at him for a long moment. For the first time, her cold mask cracked slightly. "You could have died," she said. "But I did not. Why risk so much for a trial courtship you never wanted?" Do-hyun met her silver eyes. "Because I said I would, and I keep my word." Elder Soren was silent. Then she nodded slowly. "Go to the medical bay. You have radiation burns that need treatment." She paused at the door. "The trial of courage is complete. You have passed." That night, Vela came to see him in the medical bay. Her face was worried, and her tail was wrapped tight around her leg. "You fool," she said, sitting beside his bed. "You absolute fool. You could have died in there." "I know. Then why? Why did you risk everything for this stupid trial?" Do-hyun looked at her. In the dim light of the medical bay, with her worried eyes and trembling tail, she looked beautiful. He had never noticed before how beautiful she was. "Because you asked me to help you," he said quietly. "Because you trusted me. I could not break that trust." Vela stared at him. Her violet eyes were shining, though whether from anger or something else, Do-hyun could not tell. "Humans," she whispered. "You never make sense. We make perfect sense. You just need to understand us." Vela laughed, a soft and broken sound. "I am trying, Do-hyun. Believe me, I am trying." She stayed with him until he fell asleep, and when he woke up the next morning, he found her still there, sleeping in the chair beside his bed. Her tail curled around her like a blanket. He watched her for a moment, this strange alien woman who had entered his life by accident, and he realized, with a shock that went through his whole body, that he did not want the 30 days to end. He was in trouble. Deep, deep trouble. Every morning, he went to work fixing the station's systems. Every evening, he had dinner with Vela, and somewhere in between, he found himself thinking about her more and more. She was not just a beautiful alien diplomat anymore. She was Vela, the woman who laughed at his terrible jokes, the woman who asked endless questions about Earth and its strange customs, the woman who brought him tea when he was tired and scolded him when he worked too hard. They were supposed to be pretending, but nothing felt pretend anymore. "You are distracted," Hana said one afternoon. They were in the engineering bay, and Do-hyun had been staring at the same broken pipe for 10 minutes. "I am fine." "You are not fine. You have that look on your face." "What look?" Hana crossed her arms. "The look of a man who is falling in love." Do-hyun opened his mouth to deny it, but no words came out. Hana sighed. "I knew this would happen. I told you not to get emotionally involved, but did you listen?" "No. You never listen. I did not plan this. Nobody plans to fall in love with an alien princess, Do-hyun. It just happens." Hana sat down beside him. "So what are you going to do about it?" "Nothing. The trial courtship ends in 10 days. We will go our separate ways, like we planned." "Is that what you want?" Do-hyun did not answer. He did not know how to answer. The truth was, he had no idea what he wanted anymore. A month ago, his life was simple. Work, sleep, eat, repeat. Now everything was complicated, and at the center of all the complications was a woman with violet eyes and a silver tail. That night, Elder Soren called him for the third trial. They met in a small garden on the station, a place filled with plants from different worlds. Stars shone through the glass ceiling above, and the air smelled of strange flowers. "The trial of heart," Elder Soren said. She was sitting on a stone bench, looking older than usual. "This is the final trial, and the most important. What must I do?" Elder Soren was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, softer, more serious. "There is something you must know, Kang Do-hyun. Before the accident in the corridor, Vela was promised to another." Do-hyun felt his heart stop. "What?" "A lord named Kevin of House Starfall. He is powerful and wealthy, with connections throughout the galaxy. A marriage between House Moonfire and House Starfall would bring great advantages to both families. Vela never told me this. She does not know. The arrangement was made by me, and I have not yet announced it." Elder Soren looked at him with those cold silver eyes. "If you withdraw from the courtship now, Vela can marry Lord Kevon. She will be wealthy. She will be powerful. She will have everything a Lunari woman could want." Do-hyun felt like the ground was falling away beneath him. "You want me to give up," he said slowly. "I want what is best for my granddaughter. Lord Kevin can give her a future." "What can you give her?" "You are a human engineer with no wealth, no power, no connections. You live in a small room and fix water pipes for a living." The words hurt because they were true. Do-hyun had nothing to offer Vela. No fancy houses. No political power. No ancient family name. Just himself. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Because the trial of heart is about sacrifice. A true suitor must be willing to put his beloved's happiness above his own." Elder Soren stood up and walked toward him. "If you truly care about Vela, you will let her go. You will withdraw from the courtship and let her marry the man who can give her the life she deserves." Do-hyun stood in the garden for a long time after Elder Soren left. His mind was spinning with thoughts and feelings he could not control. Was she right? Was the best thing for Vela to marry this Lord Kevin? Do-hyun knew nothing about the politics of noble houses or the expectations of Lunari society. Maybe Vela would be happier with someone from her own world. Maybe he was being selfish by staying. He walked through the station in a daze, not sure where he was going. Eventually, he found himself outside Vela's quarters. The door was open, and soft light spilled into the corridor. He knocked gently. "Come in," Vela's voice called. She was sitting by the window, reading something on a tablet. When she saw him, her face lit up with a smile. Then she noticed his expression, and the smile faded. "What is wrong?" Do-hyun sat down across from her. He looked at her face, memorizing every detail. The curve of her ears, the shine of her eyes, the way her tail curled when she was worried. "I need to tell you something," he said, and he told her everything. About the meeting with Elder Soren, about Lord Kevin, about the choice he was being asked to make. Vela listened in silence. As he spoke, her expression changed from surprise to confusion, to something he could not read. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "My grandmother told you to give up," she said finally. "To let me marry this lord." "Yes. And what did you decide?" This was the moment. Do-hun could feel it. Whatever he said next would change everything. "I came to ask you," he said. "I came to ask what you want. Because your grandmother thinks she knows what is best for you, and maybe she is right. But you are not a child, Vela. You are a woman who can make her own choices." Vela's eyes widened. "If marrying Lord Kavan will make you happy, I will step aside. I will withdraw from the courtship and let you have the future your grandmother wants." Do-hyun leaned forward. "But if it will not make you happy, if there is any part of you that wants something different, then tell me. Tell me, and I will fight for you. I will pass 100 trials if I have to." Silence filled the room. Vela stared at him like she had never seen him before. "You would really step aside?" she whispered. "If it was best for you, yes. And you would really fight for me?" "If you wanted me to, yes." Vela laughed suddenly. It was a strange laugh, half joy and half disbelief. "There is no Lord Kevin," she said. Do-hyun blinked. "What?" "My grandmother invented him. There is no arrangement. There is no other suitor." Vela shook her head, still laughing. "She was testing you, Do-hyun. The trial of heart. She wanted to see if you would sacrifice your own position for my happiness." Relief flooded through Do-hyun's body, followed by annoyance. "Your grandmother is devious," he said. "She is Lunari. It is the same thing." Vela reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool against his. "But you passed, Do-hyun. You came to me instead of making the decision alone. You asked me what I wanted instead of assuming you knew better. That is more than any Lunari suitor has ever done." Do-hyun looked at their joined hands. It felt natural. It felt right. "What do you want, Vela?" he asked softly. "Truly?" She was quiet for a moment. Her tail uncurled and swayed gently behind her. "When I was young, I dreamed of marrying for love. Not for politics, not for power. Just love." She looked at him. "I had given up on that dream. I thought it was impossible for someone like me. And now?" Vela squeezed his hand. "Now I am not so sure." They sat together in the starlight, holding hands and not speaking. Words were not necessary. Something had shifted between them, something important. The next morning, Elder Soren called them both to the great hall. When they arrived, she was standing in the center of the room with a strange expression on her face. "The trial of heart is complete," she announced. "Kang Do-hyun of Earth, you have passed all 3 trials." Do-hyun nodded, but he was watching the elder carefully. Something was different about her today. "I confess," Elder Soren continued, "I did not expect this. I designed these trials to make you fail. I wanted to protect my granddaughter from what I thought was a mistake. And now?" Elder Soren looked at Vela, then at Do-hyun, then back at Vela. "Now I am not sure what to think," she sighed, sounding older than before. "Perhaps I have been wrong about humans. Perhaps I have been wrong about many things." She walked toward the door, then paused. "The courtship may continue. You have 10 days remaining. Use them wisely." After she left, Vela turned to Do-hyun with shining eyes. "You did it," she said. "You actually did it." "We did it," he corrected. "Together." Vela smiled. That beautiful smile that made his heart race. "Together," she agreed. And for the first time since this crazy adventure began, Do-hyun felt like maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. With the trials behind them, he and Vela were free to spend time together without the shadow of Elder Soren's tests. They walked through the station's gardens. They visited the observation decks to watch ships come and go. They ate meals from a dozen different worlds, laughing when something was too spicy or too strange. And they talked. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. Vela told him about her childhood in the great halls of House Moonfire. She described the silver forests of her homeworld, where the trees sang in the wind. She shared her dreams of bringing peace between species, of building bridges across the stars. Do-hyun told her about Earth, about the blue oceans and green mountains, about the cities full of noise and life, about his parents, simple workers who had sacrificed everything so their son could reach for the stars. "They sound wonderful," Vela said one evening. "Your parents. They are. I miss them. Do you think they would accept me? A strange alien woman?" Do-hyun smiled. "My mother would probably try to feed you. She thinks food solves everything. She sounds wise." They laughed together, and Do-hyun realized how natural this felt. Being with Vela, talking to her, laughing with her, it was like they had known each other for years instead of weeks. On the 28th night, the station hosted the Lunari Bonfire Festival. It was a sacred celebration, held once a year to honor the ancestors. Fires burned in special chambers throughout the station, their flames dancing in zero-gravity spheres of orange and gold. The whole station gathered to watch. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds stood together, their faces lit by the floating flames. Do-hyun and Vela walked side by side through the crowds. She wore a traditional Lunari dress, silver and white, that made her look like a moonbeam come to life. Her tail swayed gracefully behind her, free of bandages now, fully healed. "It is beautiful," Do-hyun said, watching the flames. "The fire represents transformation," Vela explained. "The Lunari believe that fire can burn away the old and make room for the new." "That sounds hopeful." "It is meant to be." They found a quiet spot away from the crowds, a small balcony overlooking the main chamber. From here, they could see the entire festival, all the flames and all the people gathered together. "Do-hyun," Vela said suddenly. "Yes? I need to tell you something." He turned to face her. In the firelight, her violet eyes seemed to glow. "When you stepped on my tail that day, I felt something, a spark. I told myself it was just the tradition, just the custom of my people. But as the days passed, I realized it was something more." Do-hyun's heart was pounding. "Vela, you came to me with honesty when everyone expected lies. You faced my grandmother's trials when you could have walked away. You chose my happiness over your own again and again." She took a shaky breath. "I have met many beings in my life, Do-hyun, diplomats and lords and warriors from across the galaxy. But none of them have ever made me feel the way you do." Do-hyun could not speak. His throat was tight with emotion. "The 30 days end in 2 sunrises," Vela continued. "You will be free to go back to your normal life. And I wanted you to know, before that happens, that if you walk away, I will remember you. I will remember you for the rest of my life." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Do-hyun thought about everything that had happened. The accident in the corridor, the trials, the dinners and conversations. The slow, unexpected journey from strangers to something more. He thought about his life before Vela, the loneliness, the empty routine, the feeling that something was missing, and he thought about his life after, going back to his small room, fixing pipes alone, never seeing her smile again. The choice was clear. It had been clear for a while now. He had just been too afraid to admit it. "Vela," he said softly, "I need to show you something." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She did not move. His hand found her tail, that sacred part of her that no stranger should touch. He touched it gently, carefully, the way he imagined a Lunari suitor would. Vela gasped. Her eyes went wide. "Do-hyun, do you know what you are doing?" "Yes," he looked into her eyes. "I know exactly what I am doing. But the courtship ends in 2 days. You could be free. You do not have to. I do not want to be free." He kept his hand on her tail, feeling its warmth through his fingers. "I do not want to go back to my old life. I do not want to walk away and spend the rest of my days wondering what might have been." Vela's eyes were shining with tears. "You are serious." "I have never been more serious about anything." Do-hyun stepped closer. "Vela of House Moonfire, I did not plan any of this. I was just a clumsy human who stepped on the wrong tail at the wrong time. But somewhere along the way, something changed. You changed me." A tear rolled down Vela's cheek, leaving a silver trail. "I am terrified," she whispered. "I have never felt this way before, and I do not know what will happen next." "Neither do I. But I would rather face the unknown with you than face the known alone." Vela laughed. a sound mixed with tears and joy. That is the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me. Is it working? Yes, you foolish human. It is working. She reached up and touched his face with her cool fingers. Her tail curled around his wrist. The Lunari gesture of acceptance. Around them, the festival continued. Fires danced. Music played. Thousands of beings celebrated together. But for Do-hyun and Vela, the whole universe had shrunk to just the two of them. What happens now? Do-hyun asked. Now we tell my grandmother that we want to make this real. No more trial courtship. A true engagement. She will not be happy. No, she will probably try to test you again. Do-hyun smiled. I can handle a few more tests. I know you can. Vela smiled back. That is one of the things I love about you. The word hung in the air. Love. Neither of them had said it before. Do-hyun's smile softened. Did you just say love? Vela's cheeks turned purple. Perhaps I did. Good. He took her hand in his. Because I love you too. They stood there on the balcony. Human and Lunari. Two people from different worlds who had found each other by accident. The fires of the festival burned around them, transforming the old into the new. Later, they would face Elder Soren together. Later, they would deal with politics and traditions and the thousand complications of an interspecies relationship. Later, the galaxy would have its opinions about the human engineer and the Lunari diplomat. But for now, in this moment, there was only love. And that was enough. Hana found them an hour later, still standing on the balcony, holding hands and watching the flames. I knew it, she said, crossing her arms. I knew this would happen. Do-hyun grinned at her. Are you angry? Angry? No. Hana walked over and looked at Vela carefully. Then she nodded. You better take care of him. He is an idiot sometimes, but he is my idiot. Vela smiled. I will take good care of him. I promise. Good. Hana turned to Do-hyun. And you better invite me to the wedding. After all the stress you have caused me, I deserve free food and drinks. Deal. Hana shook her head, but she was smiling. Only you, Do-hyun. Only you could turn a clumsy accident into a love story. She left them alone. And Do-hyun turned back to Vela. Are you ready? He asked. For everything that comes next? Vela's tail tightened around his wrist. With you? Yes. I am ready for anything. And as the festival fires burned bright around them, two hearts from different worlds beat as one. Delegates from 100 worlds filled the space, their bodies of every shape and color creating a sea of diversity. Lunari nobles stood in their finest robes, their silver tails perfectly still with formal dignity. Human diplomats watched with curious eyes. Reporters held recording devices, ready to capture every moment. This was the biggest social event of the year. The announcement that would change everything. Do-hyun stood at the entrance, his heart pounding in his chest. He wore a new suit, simple but clean, that Hana had helped him choose. His hands were sweating despite the cool air. Nervous? Vela asked, appearing beside him. She was beautiful beyond words. Her dress was silver and white, with tiny crystals that caught the light. Her white hair was styled in an elegant arrangement, and her violet eyes were shining with emotion. Terrified, he admitted. Good, so am I. She took his hand. Let us be terrified together. They walked into the hall side by side. The crowd parted for them, whispers spreading like wildfire. Everyone knew the story by now. The human engineer, the accidental proposal, the trial courtship that had captured the attention of the entire station. What they did not know was how this story would end. Elder Soren stood at the front of the hall, beside a traditional Lunari altar decorated with silver moons and white flowers. Her face was calm, but Do-hyun could see tension in her shoulders. They had spoken with her last night, after the festival. They had told her their decision, and she had listened in silence. When they finished, she had simply nodded and said they would discuss it publicly. Do-hyun still did not know if she approved. When they reached the altar, Elder Soren raised her hand. The hall fell silent. We gather here today to witness the conclusion of a trial courtship, she announced, her voice carrying across the room. 30 days ago, Kang Do-hyun of Earth entered into a traditional courtship with my granddaughter, Vela of House Moonfire. She paused, looking at the crowd. Many of you know how this began. An accident. A cultural misunderstanding. Most expected this courtship to end quietly, with both parties returning to their separate lives. Do-hyun felt Vela squeeze his hand. But something unexpected happened. Elder Soren continued. Over these 30 days, I have watched this human closely. I have tested him in ways that would break most beings. The trial of patience. The trial of courage. The trial of heart. The crowd murmured with interest. He passed every trial, not through cleverness or luck, but through something I did not expect from a human. Something I rarely see even in Lunari suitors. Elder Soren's eyes found Do-hyun's. Integrity, persistence, and genuine care for another's well-being above his own. Do-hyun stood straighter, surprised by her words. The trial period has now ended. According to our traditions, Kang Do-hyun may withdraw from the courtship with his honor intact. He may return to his life as if this never happened. Elder Soren's voice became formal. Kang Do-hyun of Earth, do you wish to withdraw? This was the moment. Every eye in the hall was on him. Reporters leaned forward. Nobles held their breath. The fate of House Moonfire hung on his next words. Do-hyun released Vela's hand and stepped forward. He looked at Elder Soren, then at the crowd, then at Vela. Then he did something no one expected. He knelt down on one knee, the traditional human pose of proposal, right there in front of everyone. Gasps filled the hall. I do not withdraw, he said clearly. His voice was steady, though his heart was racing. I came here by accident. I stayed here by choice. And now I choose again. He looked up at Vela, whose eyes were wide with surprise and joy. Vela of House Moonfire, I am not a noble. I am not wealthy. I am not powerful. I am just an engineer who fixes water pipes and makes stupid mistakes. He smiled. But I love you. I love your kindness. I love your strength. I love the way you laugh and the way you scold me and the way your tail sways when you are happy. Tears were rolling down Vela's cheeks. Will you wed me? Do-hyun asked. Not because of tradition, not because of accident, but because I want to spend the rest of my life with you? Silence filled the hall. No one moved. No one breathed. Vela stepped forward. Her tail uncurled and reached out, wrapping gently around his wrist in the Lunari gesture of acceptance. Yes, she whispered. Then louder, for everyone to hear. Yes, I will wed you, Kang Do-hyun. The hall erupted. Humans cheered and clapped. Lunari nobles exchanged shocked glances. Reporters spoke rapidly into their devices. Somewhere in the crowd, Hana let out a loud whistle that made several aliens jump. Do-hyun rose and pulled Vela into his arms. She came willingly, pressing against him as her tail wrapped tighter around his wrist. You did it, she said into his ear. You actually did it. We did it. Together. They held each other as the chaos swirled around them. Nothing else mattered. Not the crowd. Not the politics. Not the 1,000 complications waiting in their future. They were together. That was all that counted. After several minutes, Elder Soren raised her hand again. The crowd slowly quieted. It seems, she said dryly, that the trial courtship has reached an unexpected conclusion. A few people laughed nervously. Elder Soren looked at Do-hyun and Vela for a long moment. Then, slowly, her expression softened. When I first heard about this human, I thought he was a problem to be solved. Another clumsy outsider who would bring shame to my family. She paused. I was wrong. The hall went silent again. Kang Do-hyun has shown me something I had forgotten. He has reminded me that love does not follow rules or traditions. It comes when it wants, where it wants, to whoever it wants. Elder Soren almost smiled. Perhaps humans are not so clumsy after all. Perhaps they just see the world differently than we do. She turned to face the crowd. As the matriarch of House Moonfire, I give my blessing to this union. Let it be known throughout the galaxy that Vela of House Moonfire will wed Kang Do-hyun of Earth. More cheers, more applause, more chaos. Later, after the official ceremony and the endless congratulations, Do-hyun and Vela escaped to the observation deck. They stood together by the window, looking out at the stars. "What are you thinking?" Vela asked. "I am thinking about how strange life is." Do-hyun shook his head. "1 month ago, I was just an engineer. I had no plans, no ambitions, nothing special about my life. Then I stepped on your tail, and everything changed. Do you regret it?" "Not for a second." He wrapped his arm around her waist. "What about you? Do you regret getting engaged to a clumsy human?" Vela leaned into him, her tail curling around his leg. "My grandmother was right about one thing. Humans are strange. You do not give up. You do not know when to quit. You throw yourselves at impossible problems and somehow find a way to succeed." She looked up at him. "It is terrifying. And wonderful." Do-hyun kissed the top of her head. "So what happens now? Where do we go from here?" "I do not know. There will be challenges. My people and yours have very different cultures. Not everyone will accept this marriage." Vela's voice grew soft. "But I know one thing for certain." "What is that?" "As long as we face it together, we can handle anything." Do-hyun tightened his arm around her. "Together," he agreed. Somewhere below them, the Unity Summit was ending. Ships were preparing to depart. The thousands of beings who had gathered here would return to their homeworlds, carrying stories and memories. And among all those stories, one would spread farther than the others. The tale of a human who accidentally stepped on an alien's tail and, through stubbornness and love, turned a mistake into a miracle. It was, the Lunari agreed, the most human thing they had ever witnessed. And perhaps, they whispered to each other as the news spread across the galaxy, perhaps that was exactly what made it so remarkable. Because humans did not accept fate. Humans changed it. And in the end, that simple truth changed everything. Months later, as Do-hyun and Vela prepared for their wedding, they received a message from Earth. Do-hyun's parents were coming to the station to meet their future daughter-in-law. "Are you nervous?" Do-hyun asked Vela. She was pacing back and forth, her tail twitching with anxiety. "Your mother will try to feed me. What if I do not like Earth food? What if they do not like me? What if I accidentally insult them by touching something I should not touch?" Do-hyun laughed and caught her hands in his. "Vela, they will love you, because I love you, and my parents trust my judgment." "Your judgment? You stepped on my tail. And look how well that turned out." Vela stared at him for a moment. Then she laughed too, the tension draining from her body. "You are impossible, Kang Do-hyun. And you love me anyway." "Yes." She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. "Yes, I do." Outside the window, a ship was approaching. A small vessel from Earth, carrying two parents who had traveled across the galaxy to meet their son's alien bride. A new chapter was beginning. And whatever challenges lay ahead, Do-hyun knew they would face them the same way they had faced everything else. Together.